Hello! With only a few posting days left till Christmas, Fact Me Up turns its attention to the history of Brighton's postal service. Did you know the main Brighton post office has lived in almost a dozen different locations over the years? We will track all of them down and find out what's there now. Also, we learn about the postal strike that destroyed a building and much more. Roll titles. The earliest reference to Brighton having a postal service dates from 1675, almost 200 years before the invention of stamps. How does that work? The General Post Office had just been set up 15 years earlier by Charles II on the restoration of the monarchy. Initially, there were only 6 routes, or postal roads, all originating from London, but extra routes were being added all the time. It was one from Chichester to Lewes that stopped at Brighton. The first known record of Brighton having a dedicated post office counter was a whopping 75 years later. It began in the Old Ship Hotel in 1750. 27 years later it moved round to Middle Street in a long gone building somewhere around here, where it hung around for 3 years until 1780. It then resurfaced at 92 North Street, which is now the Metro Bank. And yes, this is North Street. Western Road begins not at the Clock Tower, but at Churchill Square. It only hung around North Street for a year before being wooed by the new Oldstein libraries. These subscription libraries were essentially gentlemen's social clubs that people travelled to Brighton to visit. The big two were very close together on the Stein and were in a constant competition to have the best facilities and services to draw in new members. They would both get an opportunity to host the post office counter. It spent 3 years at Thomas's Library, a wooden structure that was actually the first building to be built on the east side of the Stein. That's now this sandwich smith. In 1784 it moved to Crawford's Library, run by Andrew Crawford, a boozing buddy of the Prince Regent. That was located right here. The current building, which is undergoing renovation, dates from the 1920s. For many years it was a car showroom. Its famous black cat wall sculpture was designed to scare off passing birds so they didn't poo on the cars. But surely scaring them would make them more likely to poo themselves? Let's have a mini facts interlude whilst we think about bird poo. Let's talk about Postboxes. Brighton's first was on Lewes Road, its second on 7 Dials, and its third Montpellier Road on the corner of Western Road. Whilst the first two are long gone, the third remains. This is the 1859 original. In fact, it's now a listed building, being the only post box of its type in the world still in use. You can tell it's old because it doesn't have a royal insignia or post office lettering. Also, it's covered in authentic Victorian graffitis. Did you hear about the postal strike that destroyed a building? The Central National School stood on Church Street opposite New Road for 150 years. Regarded as the finest Gothic building in Brighton, the council decided to demolish it in 1971 for a road widening scheme. Outraged locals appealed to central government, who agreed and made it a listed building. They wrote to tell the council that they couldn't demolish it. Unfortunately, there was a strike by postal delivery workers at the time. The letter, addressed to Brighton Town Hall, which is 3 minutes walk that way, sat in North Road's sorting office, which is 3 minutes walk that way, whilst the building, which was right there, was knocked to the ground. Extra annoyingly, the road widening never actually took place. A pile of rubble sat there for 30 years until the 21st century turned it into this. The post office spent almost 20 years at Crawford's Car Cat Library before upping sticks in 1803 to the northeastern corner of Prince's Place, around there. It spent 2 decades here before moving to 67 East Street, which is now this clothes shop. 5 years later it moved again to 149 North Street. If this is encouraging you to send out your Christmas cards, you'll be pleased to hear that that's now a card shop. In 1831 the post office moved to 22 New Road next to the Unitarian Church, where you can now post a pizza into your mouth. After 9 different temporary homes in the first century of its existence, a purpose-built main post office opened in Ship Street on the 26th of March 1849. It would remain here for exactly 158 years and 2 months before being dumped into the basement of Churchill Square W.H. Smith's in May 2007. Whilst the counter service remained at Ship Street for over a century and a half, the sorting office bit moved to North Road to a new building on the site of the former Regent Iron Foundry in 1926. Cue an interview.
Well, it used to be a sorting office, but in about 2000 it went up to Gatwick. It merged with the Red Hill delivery office to open the new Gatwick mail centre, and Brighton became a delivery office. Well, obviously I wasn't there in 1926. It's still an old building. It's a municipal building. It's quite old, scruffy. When I started there, it was a mail centre, and it had all the machines that the little elves put blue dots on the letters to help sort them. They were doing sorting for all over, the manual sorting as well, for all over the country. December is about a third of the year, of the post that goes through. So everybody's doing their online shopping with Cyber Monday and Black Friday and stuff, But you get your mail because it actually gets delivered by somebody. They are being delivered by other companies now, but obviously not as well. Post early, write clearly on the envelope and include your postcode.
We do love a good Brighton first here at Fact Me Up, so we'll leave you with this. On the 5th of August 1986, the world's first electronic stamp vending machine went into operation. Where? At Brighton's Ship Street Post Office. Next week on Fact Me Up, something Christmassy. No idea what, but something Christmassy.